Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our show, Consider This. Today, my guest is someone very special. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and my guest is Steve Bellone, who is the supervisor of Babylon, a town just west of us, and he is running for county executive on the Independent, Democratic, and Working Party lines. Wow,
Exactly.
You got a lot of people behind you.
It's a good thing, yes. We got a lot of support. It's great to be here, Phyllis. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming. I would like to know a little bit about you. I'd like you to tell everyone something about who you are.
Sure. Well, I'm a lifelong Long Island resident. I was born in Queens, and we moved out to Suffolk County when I was about 3 years old in North Babylon. And I grew up there. I went to the public schools there, and my father was a police officer and a corrections officer, and my mom stayed home to raise me and my brother and sister. And so I'm a Suffolk person running for county executive because I think we have a lot of challenges, but I can make a difference, I believe.
Well, I'm sure you are, and we're going to find out about those differences. Where did you go to school? At what colleges?
I went actually back to my roots in Queens and graduated from Queens College. And after that, I went into the Army. It's something I had always thought about doing. I come from a family that has a history of military service, believes in the importance of it. And while I was there, I was able to do a master's degree at night in public administration. And I came home and eventually went to law school.
Wonderful. And what was the thing that really pushed you into politics?
It wasn't one thing in particular, but I had always loved history from a very early age. I was actually going back to fourth grade when we took our first started learning about American history, and we actually took a trip to Philadelphia to see Independence Hall, where the Constitution was written and the Declaration of Independence was written. And I was, as a fourth grader, just blown away by that. And from that point on, I just loved history. And from there, it evolved that I was really interested in government and politics. And at some point, I actually debated between becoming a teacher of history or going into government. And ultimately, probably sometime in college, I decided that I wanted to try to affect policy. And therefore, I was going to go into government.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. It seems to me that as a teacher, I faced the same choices, only in those days,
Right.
in the ancient history times, women didn't go into politics. So my choices were really limited, and I went into teaching to change the world.
Yeah,
I had this Joan of Arc complex. I wanted to change the world.
Well, there's no better thing to go into than teaching then, and I'm sure you've had a much bigger impact on our world by doing that than most of the politicians I see today.
Oh, well, that's true today, yes. So tell us about what was your first position that you ran for?
Well, in 1997, I was an aide to Supervisor Rich Schaefer at the time, who's now the county Democratic chairman, and I ran for town council against the two-term incumbent and was successful. I was elected in 1997, took office in 98, and served for 4 years on the town council.
Yes, and then?
Well, then the supervisor decided not to run for re-election, and I was 31 at the time and had been on the board for 4 years and decided to make the run for supervisor. And I was elected, fortunately. I was running for it now coming up on the 10th anniversary of the attacks on 9/11. I was actually running for supervisor that day in the primary. And of course, as we know, it was postponed 2 weeks, but I was then fortunately elected in the primary and then in the November general election. And I've been there for 10 years now and love the job. I continue to love what I'm doing, and I'm every day excited about the work that we're doing in Babylon.
Okay, what is the work that you're doing with Babylon?
Well, we've been very focused on improving the quality of life for our residents. And, that covers a lot of different areas. Most of the things that make up our quality of life are just a bunch of intangibles that are put together. And so I've tried to focus on a lot of different areas to improve. We've completely revitalized our park system, built some really beautiful and unique parks. In fact, I think it is one of the great mistakes our country has made in the last several decades, that we've invested so little in our public spaces, because the truth is the public spaces are what we all own, and we should be investing most of our public resources into those places. And they affect our quality of life. They affect our property values. So I really believe people want to live in communities with great parks and great public spaces. So we've invested a significant amount of resources into those things. Overhauled our road network, rebuilt the entire system, revitalized our downtowns. We're working in communities like Wyandanch, where it's the most economically distressed community on Long Island, but we're revitalizing it, creating economic development and helping change the community and lift people's lives. And also things like beautification. Now, I'm a big believer in how a community looks affects the quality of life. So we've planted about 2 million tulip and daffodil bulbs in the last 5 years in Babylon.
Wow.
Yeah. When I was in the Army, I remember reading a column by George Will, the conservative columnist.
Sure, I know George Will well.
You know him well, so I would remind him of this column. He wrote about Mayor Daley in Chicago and the beautification movement there, and I visited Chicago and was blown away at how beautiful it looked. And I was struck by one of the things that Mayor Daley said. He said, "Flowers calm people down." And as I was reading this in my barracks in the Army, I thought to myself, if I ever become a public official, I am going to plant lots and lots of flowers, because we want people to be nice and calm and happy. And that's exactly what I've done in Babylon. And I think it's important because it's not just about the community looking nice. Those things affect our economy, affect our property values, how we feel about the community. And I think when you do things like that, more people want to stay in your community and more people want to move in. And that's why we've done those things.
I think that's a great philosophy.
Oh, thank you.
I'm glad I'm always buying more bulbs and planting more daffodils.
Exactly.
I can only plant daffodils because the tulips are candy for the deer. So,
well, yes, we don't have that problem as much in Babylon.
No, well, we do have that
out
problem.
here, yes.
We have that among many other problems, but deer are
Exactly.
definitely something to contend with. That's a wonderful idea. And what else?
Well, beyond those sort of quality of life issues, I've been very focused on creating efficiency in government. I'm a big believer that, any organization needs to run as efficiently as possible. If something's not working, you should change it. If something's no longer needed, you should get rid of it so that you can focus your resources on things that are actually helping the community move forward. So we've been able to, over time, significantly reduce the size of government, while at the same time reducing debt every single year that I've been in office. We have about a 20% smaller debt burden since I took office as town supervisor. And we were able to deliver actually a 5% tax cut last year, despite the very difficult economic times. And people have said to me, well, how are you getting things done? And what I've said is the truth is that we're doing more today than we ever have before, because as an organization, we have been focused on figuring out how you become more innovative, more efficient, more productive. Government can't act like it has in the past. It needs to operate like the private sector in this sense. Not that we're trying to create a profit, because that's what government's here for, to do the things that the private sector can't or won't do. But in the sense that we're trying to innovate every day, that we create a culture of innovation. Because unlike the private sector, there is no bottom line that pushes efficiency in government. In the private sector, if you're not efficient, you will be out of business. In government, we never go out of business. No matter how badly a particular government may perform, we will always be there.
But you may get voted out. You're not efficient.
You may get voted out, but to a large extent, sometimes the damage can be done. So if you want your government to operate as efficiently as possible, you really need to build accountability structures into the organization. We've done that in Babylon. We've broken down the functions of our government into its component parts, and we now know every aspect of our government and how it's performing. And we continue every day to work to make it better.
Wow, I'm very impressed.
Oh, thanks,
That's a wonderful goal to have.
It's important. It's important. It's important that people know, because I think people understand that, costs go up and we do need to pay into government to make sure we can do the things that we all have to do together as a society. But what people don't want is to feel like their money's being wasted or that there is inefficiency and the money's going down the drain. So in Babylon, I think people understand that, when they pay their taxes that are going to Babylon, that money is being well spent and it's being invested. It's being spent as efficiently as possible, and we're investing it in things that help create a long-term, prosperous future for our community.
Now, let's take this to the next level.
Yes.
Let's take it to the level of Suffolk County.
Yes.
What do you see will be some of your goals for Suffolk County?
We have significant challenges in the county, without question. The major challenges that I see are we're not creating enough high-paying jobs. We continue to lose young people in our region at rates higher than any other area of the country. We don't have enough diversity in our housing stock for long-term economic sustainability, and our costs are too high. Those four major regional challenges are sort of feeding off of one another and strengthening each other in a way that poses long-term systemic risk for our economy. When you add in transportation issues and environmental issues.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, we have major challenges to deal with to create long-term prosperity. So those are the things that I intend to work on if I become the next county executive, and to focus on like a laser. The county should be, to the extent feasible, focused exclusively on those big issues. They should stay out of the things that the county shouldn't be involved in. Planning and zoning happens at the local level. Community planning. The county should support great community planning with resources to make sure that it's happening. And where community planning produces things that will help us address the big regional challenges, the county should be there to help implement them and make them happen with infrastructure dollars and things like that. But the county should understand that they should not be there to act as a superseding planning authority or step into the way of community planning. So I think I understand that as a town supervisor and somebody who's done that kind of planning at the local level. So I will be exclusively focused on those major regional challenges that we face.
Let's talk about Suffolk County as a whole right now. I know that you're aware of some very important and highly trained minds out of Stony Brook who have said that we actually have reached the level of development that our land, our water, and our air can sustain environmentally. And that's a really, really big statement.
Sure.
And it's something that we are going to have to consider. I mean, if you can't breathe the air, drink the water, swim in what makes Long Island, our wonderful waters.
Yeah, no question.
You really have a terrific problem. It will become a place where people have to flee instead of want to stay.
Yes.
I mean, out here in East Hampton, our farming, our fishing, and of course our tourism is what makes us. So
that's exactly right.
What are some of your feelings about the density?
Well, it's one of the reasons that I've always, as a Babylon town supervisor, supported preservation efforts and have communicated to my residents the importance of our investment as a community in Babylon, as a county, in making sure that we are working to preserve the unique and special characteristics of this place out here. And we have been supportive of those efforts. The environment is absolutely critical to our long-term strategy for prosperity here. If we're undercutting our environment and the natural assets that we have that that have given us prosperity all these years, then we are going to be undercutting the county's ability to prosper in the future. So I think the article that you cite and the report that came out of Stony Brook is critically important in terms of raising an issue that hasn't gotten enough attention, and that is the damage caused by waste and the fact that septic systems are not doing the job necessary to deal with that environmental issue. And it's an issue I've talked a lot about in Babylon, actually. And I think one of the first things that we need to do there is to figure out a way to make sure that during the process of buying homes, people have a way to understand their septic system. Because right now, a big part of the problem is people have no idea about their septic systems, how they function, what their lifespan is, how they need to be maintained. When you go to buy a home here, everybody knows how old the roof is, everybody knows how old the boiler is. Nobody knows a thing about the septic systems. And the reality is that you have tens of thousands of systems, undoubtedly, that are past their lifespan, that are not functioning correctly, that are not operating correctly, that are all significantly causing damage to our environment. So I think one of the first things we need to do is to create a way that at the time people are making decisions about buying homes, that they understand, a septic system lasts 25 years approximately before it starts to fail. It's like a roof may last 25 years before you may need to expect it. So if you're going to buy a home that has a 20-year-old septic system, you need to understand that, I'm probably going to have to replace that system over the next few years. That information is not out there currently. And I think there are ways that we can help make that happen, because we know there is significant environmental damage that is happening. The other thing I proposed in Babylon was for people in high water table areas that we do something similar to our Green Homes program, where we're helping residents make their homes energy efficient, that people that are constantly pumping out because their septics are failing, or they don't even have septics, they have cesspools, they have older systems, that we upfront the money to help replace and put in new systems, and they pay back over time, essentially with the savings they're getting from not having to pump out their septic system so frequently. So there, I think, are ways that we can move forward. And then we need to be immediately, but we need to be looking at the bigger issues like new innovative technologies and, of course, also sewering. That's a big issue for the county.
Yes, you know what? You make me feel very guilty because I have no idea how old my septic system is.
No, I don't mean to put any guilt on you.
My goodness gracious. I'm going to run home.
No, it's people
find the former owner wherever.
It's not your fault, right? Yeah, no, people have no idea. They don't have any idea until it is a problem, until the sewage is overflowing, and then damage has already been happening for a long time by that time, environmentally speaking.
I think this is going to have to be an issue that there's going to have to be a lot of research done to try to find ways to solve this, and how do we get everybody involved in doing something?
Exactly, and how do we make progress right away? I would hate to see us be in a situation where we can't build a consensus and 10 years later we haven't made any progress on the issue, because it is something we need to start addressing soon.
Well, we're going to need your leadership on this kind of thing.
That's why I'm running.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. So tell us something more also about, I read on your website about creating green jobs.
Yes.
In what was called public land. Okay, I first of all would like a definition of public land, except I know that this studio is, I believe, public land.
Oh, is that right?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I think this whole area is owned as an industrial park.
Sure.
By East Hampton.
Yeah.
I believe.
You believe. So public land would be previously developed land that happens to be publicly owned, not park land, not preserved land, but previously improved land that is in public hands, and that is already off the tax rolls. one of the things that clearly we need to do as a region moving forward is create more high-paying jobs. We are a high-cost region, and we've been creating, unfortunately, many jobs that are lower paying.
Right.
And that's not sustainable. It's one of the reasons that young people are moving to other regions of the country. So we need to create more high-paying jobs, and the thought is to create what we're calling these innovation zones. We have remarkable research institutions in our county. In fact, 3 institutions that are essentially centers of global innovation: Stony Brook University, Brookhaven National Laboratory, and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, where there is an effort underway now under the leadership of Supervisor Lesko in Brookhaven and with the Long Island Association and Kevin Law through the Accelerate Long Island initiative to get those research institutions to work together to commercialize new scientific research. And the idea is to take those newly formed companies that could become the next Google or the next great thing in the country and have them be nurtured here so that we're creating those high-paying jobs locally and we can keep our young people here and grow our economy, while at the same time not impacting taxing jurisdictions, because you're talking about land that's already off the tax rolls.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I mean, I know that there was a big thing about with Tim Bishop saving some jobs at
Yes.
at Brookhaven to keep that
Very important.
keep it running, and that is a very important issue. We also have our own local Southampton Stony Brook College, which is also beginning to develop an arts center, such as SUNY Purchase has, which
Yeah.
is also an arts center. And that looks like something that will, because our area is a very nice place for artists. We have that wonderful light, and we also have a wonderful writing program there. And that is something that we would like to see developed.
I think that would be a great area and sector of the economy to help nourish and grow, without question. And I think we need to be looking at the things that, based on the assets we have, both educational and natural assets, to be targeting for growth. And I think the arts certainly is one of those areas that we are naturally, I think, in a position to attract artists and that sector of the economy.
Yes, well, I know that here in East Hampton, there's so many things that are going on that we're trying so desperately to maintain the quality of our life here.
Exactly.
To have our preservation fund buying more open land so that we do have those magnificent vistas that, take your breath away.
Right.
There are times if I drive around sometimes at 6, 7 o'clock, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God, look at this light. Look at this beautiful place. I mean, it really is an amazing
And the county has an important role to play in helping to preserve those vistas and those lands, without question.
We have in our own candidates running here on the Democratic ticket, Zach Cohen, Peter Van Scovic, and Sylvia Ogilvie. Both Peter and Sylvia were on the planning board, and Peter was also on the zoning board as well, and Zach has worked with the Preservation Fund and as well as the finance part of. So they also are very, very interested in doing the kinds of things you're talking about.
It's a great group of people, and we're, of course, running on the same ticket.
Right.
And they're people who understand the importance of planning and preservation, but at the same time understand efficiency and the need for government to be operating as efficiently as possible.
And also they understand that these problems are very complex.
Yes.
And, I think I said it on another one of the shows that I did, was that there are no simple solutions to things. I mean, I don't know a simple solution to anything except maybe when I'm cooking a piece of chicken.
Yeah,
there
are not. And anybody, be wary of any politician who tells you there is an easy answer
these
to
are
something.
very complex, but you have to do the research, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have the drive, and you have to have the vision and the goals.
That's right.
to understand where are you going and what do you want to do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think they are all candidates who possess those traits. And, I'm excited to be running with them.
Yes, and before we do finally finish, we also want to mention the fact that I have two grand girlies and you have two very young children.
Yes, Katie and Molly.
And how old are they?
Katie is 3.5, and Molly just turned 2. So they are just, the whole world to me, and I make sure every day that I have the opportunity to spend time with them and to play with them, and it's the greatest part of my life.
And also to make sure that you're going to make Suffolk County the premier place in the United States for them to be
that's
to
exactly
grow up
right.
in.
I want them, like every family does, every parent, every grandparent does, for their kids to be successful and have a great future. But I'd like them to have that great future here in Suffolk County, and I think I can help do that. And based on my experience in Babylon as an executive, running one of the largest governments in New York for the last 10 years, I think I'm in a position to help make a difference right from day one.
Well, that's great. That's what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to you getting to that position so that we can go to bed at night and know that somebody is at the helm who has the same kind of vision for Suffolk County that we do, which is to keep it as beautiful and as well run and economically efficient, and allow businesses to flourish.
Right, exactly.
So
we can do all those things.
I do thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Philip.
And
Pleasure to be here.
hope to see you again.
Absolutely.
I know I will.
Thank you.
And I know I'm going to vote for you too.
Thank you.